Just like the character Hantermi was a crucial focal point for the King Gizzard folklore, the album Polygondwanaland also speaks volumes about the mythology created, and in my view, gives some of the most paramount connections towards the understanding of the Gizzverse as we know it. But what on earth could this term mean? And how does this album bring such importance to the fabric of everything that I've talked about in previous volumes? Well, like everything in the series so far, let's get stuck into the nitty-gritty details of the song by the same name and see if we can match them over the visual clues Jason has provided us. With these words, we are introduced to a group of travellers who are undertaking a journey abroad to get towards a potential paradise that they long to reach, and a utopia that is only known as Polygondwanaland. The name of which also refers to Gondwana and is one of the major subcontinents that made up Pangaea, a term given to a supercontinent prehistoric in time before the separations of the land masses and the formation of the Earth that we now know. But who exactly are these travellers, and why do they want to find Polygondwanaland? Well, in my view, they are the figures that we saw in the first chapter from Invisible Face, because since they were searching for spiritual nourishment and potentially the secret to immortality through non-egon infinity, it feels very akin to this idea of reaching such notions in the mythical place known as Polygondwanaland. But it's also a destination that might be seen as the start of something new for the travellers, which not only smartly reflects the nature of the phrase Gondwana in the track's name, given it is a reference to a land near the beginning of time, but also why we usually see the non-egon infinity sign attached to an egg, as this is often used as a symbol for the birth of new life, and further links to notions for the dawn of creation. Those images are all very nice nods to what is seen in previous albums, and perhaps the prefix of the word poly is hinting at either the different ways each traveller sees this paradise as, or even simply that there exist many ideas of what it could look like. But the only way to reach this place is to follow where the river runs, as indicated by the song's lyrics. But whilst this simply might be an obvious notion to the song The River from the album Quarters, it's also connecting the next song from the album known as Castle in the Air, which brings back the spoken narrator that we heard from Murder of the Universe as she continues on to describe the mystical-like travel of some figures to an unknown destination.
The river opened her mouth and spat into a vast sea, larger and bluer than a cloudless sky, muscular, prodigious, and mortal. But our vessel was invulnerable. It was well built. The boat rocked me into sleep, and I floated through a deep dream, smooth sailing through the castle in the air.
I believe this song follows the same travellers from Invisible Face on their way to Polygondwanaland, as the mention of the smooth sailing through the castle in the air could very well mean the spaceship that we've already seen these figures use. But the notion of floating through a deep dream is also a nice link to the song Sleep Drifter from the album Flying Microtonal Banana, which describes an individual drifting in and out of sleep, almost akin to that of someone who is on a long and tiresome journey and is dreaming of the destination that they hope to arrive to one day soon.
I can see you next to me, and it is love.
And coming back to the song Castle in the Air, the lyrics also give a potential insight of what Polygondwanaland might look like, as it describes a place that is filled with men whose heads grow beneath their shoulders, with one-eyed people living together peacefully as they roam the land together. But the most interesting aspect about this song comes towards the end, which talks about how this dream is broken and the reality quickly sets in. That line about the dream decolorizing explains why we see the change between the animated to the real life in a visible face, as another clever link to the song Sleep Drifter, as it is about going in and out of sleep and switching from dreams to reality. But all of this by now also confirms the connection between the figures that we saw from Nodding on Infinity to the travellers described in Polygondwanaland, and suggests this album could very well be the prequel to the forthcoming apocalypse that we now know is coming. Entering the 10-minute epic that is the song Crumbling Castle, we get a first-person point of view of the apocalypse as it rains down destruction to everything that has ever existed and to those who are unfortunate enough to witness it as it is all happening.
I see through the bricks to the sea, crumbling castle. Waters rising up, thick and green, crumbling castle. Inching closer each century, crumbling castle. Are we safe in our citadel? Look upon our condition, crumbling castle. You would not believe where I'm from, crumbling castle.
But apart from the fact that this is another nod to what we saw in Volume 2, with references to the albums Murder of the Universe and I'm in Your Mind Fuzz, it could also be a clever reference to the idea of the human condition itself crumbling, as mankind faces extinction and the castle walls of the human race begin to show their cracks.
We wait for the death that does not come, crumbling castle. Dug over hole in God's acre, crumbling castle. We have even said our last rites, crumbling castle. Are we safe in our holding cell? Look upon our condition, crumbling castle. We head to our extinction, crumbling castle.
Crumbling Castle also leads into another track from the album known as Inner Cell, which tells the story of conspirators plotting to revolt against a terrible ruler or godlike figure, and more than likely takes place in the fallout from the apocalypse left from Nodding on Infinity, with a few survivors left fighting for who should be in control in this world that is run by absolute chaos. But just like that, the plot is crushed as described by another song called Horology, which also paints the picture that this terrible ruler has exacted his revenge on those who have opposed him and has even left them forever marked for others to see, as a reminder for those to think otherwise in the future.
Just like that, the plant was crushed, brushed away with a thought somewhere
The song continues on to follow one of the survivors from this failed coup, and this is where I believe the most paramount connections for the entire album are about to be made, as we join a weary traveller who desires to look beyond the three and know the truth behind Tetrachromacy. Entering the final chapter for the album, we are introduced to the phrase tetrachromacy with a song of the same name, which is a scientific term that relates to a condition of where a fourth cone of colour can be possessed, and normally isn't seen in humans given we are what's known as trichromats, meaning we have 3 types of cone cells of red, green and blue that allow our eyes to process everything that we see around us. But the song also tells us of how this weary traveller becomes enticed by a story from a glassy-eyed man who tells him of the powers that tetrachromacy can give him. The mention of subarctic caribou, which is also known as reindeer in North America, is a clever example of the only mammals known to have ultraviolet vision to see UV frequencies of light, which is why the storyman brings up the notion of the power lines and the metal wires bursting into life, given reindeer have been seen to avoid power lines because of their ultraviolet vision. But in my view, this also connects the weary traveller to be the reticent raconteur from the album Mirror of the Universe, as the song of the same name is narrated by a person who recalls the Battle of the Balrog and the Lord of Lightning.
And every time I think of the poor lot, I recall the fear upon their faces and the doomed fate of them all. I saw death become of light and life become of fire. I saw it from my hiding place within the quagmire. I bringeth forth the drama, unabridged and unignored, the battle of the Balrog and the mighty.
Lord of lightning.
And given that lightning can be induced through ultraviolet lasers by creating a thin channel of plasma through which electricity is passed, this explains why the story from the glassy-eyed man could entice our weary traveller, because the failed coup against the terrible ruler was more than likely against the Lightning Lord, which explains why those that were found alive had their skin burnt off and blistering, just like they had been struck by lightning. And it's possible that the weary traveller hopes to gain this power of tetrachromacy to potentially warn him of when the Lightning Lord may one day return, especially since also in the song Horology he had his eyes gouged out and desires this gift so he can hopefully not only see again, but also rise up as a powerful figure. Coming to the last track of the album, the song appropriately titled The Fourth Colour confirms that the weary traveller from before has now acquired the ability of tetrachromacy and can see the new spectrum of light for the first time. such an ability has now rejuvenated the once forgotten survivor into an omnipresent-like figure who was born again to see the light and is now similar to that of a god, just in a photon-like format. But what makes the conclusion of this chapter so significant is because of who this figure is revealed to be, which fittingly comes at the very end of the song, but also only on the vinyl version.
Hello.
Before we started the band, we knew what the last album was going to be and what the first album was going to be. They're all connected.
Hello. My name is Hantaiomi.
They all kind of exist in this parallel universe that they may be from different times and from different places, but they all can coexist in a meaningful kind of way.
Hello. My name is Hantaiomi. Is Hantaiomi. Is Hantaiomi. Is Hantaiomi. Is Hantaiomi.
Holy shit, are you kidding me? The weary traveller who escaped the clutches of the Lightning Lord during the wake of the apocalypse left from the opening the door through Nonagon Infinity is the universe-murdering cyborg Hantaiomi? But how can this be? Well, at the end of Chapter 8, I mentioned how the track Polygondwanaland is suggestive of the fact that the album could be a prequel to Nonagon Infinity, and the fact that we've just seen the album concluding with the introduction of Hantaiomi, it has to confirm that this could very well be the case, as it is a tie-in to the events. So what we've just heard is the prologue to the life of who Hantaiomi was before he became a cyborg, which could also be referencing to acquiring the ability to see the fourth colour, especially with the lines of analysing information, just like any machine would. And this is why the final chapter is so significant, and why Polygondwanaland is so paramount to the links of everything that we've seen in the previous volumes. But where does this leave the fate of the universe, and what lies in store for Hantaiomi's altered future and its plans for the rest of mankind? Well, this is where we'll have to wait and see for answers to those questions that will hopefully come in the not so distant future. And as I say the words farewell, if only momentarily, I want to also add a beholden thank you for joining me on this adventure into the extraordinary stories created by one of the world's most prolific artists, and towards the understanding of the Gizzverse as we know it.
There's some truth to fantasy, even though it's fantasy. Yeah.
So you're like somewhere slaying dragons and all of a sudden they're cellophane.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and some hot water.
Well, I mean, if it was too much fantasy, then you wouldn't be able to connect with it. Like, it wouldn't make any sense.
Need some hot wax.
I'm sorry?
You need some hot wax.
You need some hot wax.
I mean, even in space, they got spaceships.